Sponsored by Brilliant. Get smarter every day and save 20%. Link in the description. iPhone has gone pro and I'm going hands-on. I'm Rene Ritchie and this is Vector. iPhone 11 Pro is the official name, which I'm super happy about. Sure, iPhone Pro would be even cleaner and more in keeping with the iPad Pro and MacBook Pro. But with products like the iPhone, where Apple keeps multiple generations in the lineup, it makes the feature sets and price points easier to keep track of. 11 is higher than 10, even 10S or 10R, therefore newer and better. And Pro, whether you agree with its use on phones or not, is easily understood as shorthand for higher end. Just much better branding than last year overall. Now, I'm going to get this next point out of the way immediately. There's no 5G on the iPhone 11 Pro, or any iPhone, still, mostly because there's no real 5G out in the real world yet either. Also, no bilateral inductive charging, which despite the rumors may have never been a thing for the iPhone 11. No USB-C, which is a legit bummer given how ubiquitous it's become. No Apple Pencil support, despite me wanting it so bad. The industrial design is almost identical to last year and the year before because phones are like cars or watches these days, and haptic touch instead of 3D touch, which I think I'll really miss, but is also more consistent and eliminates the collisions between long presses and deep presses. But I'm going to have to try it out for a while and figure out what the real trade-off is. Now, Apple's calling the display Super Retina XDR, a throwback to the Pro Display XDR, or Extreme Dynamic Range, introduced a few months ago at WWDC 2019 alongside the new Mac Pro. That's a 6K desktop LCD and not a phone-sized OLED. But I think that Apple is referring to here the 2 million to 1 contrast ratio and peak brightness of 1200 nits and sustained brightness of 800 nits in sunlight, which does extend the high dynamic range of last year's panels to a more ludicrous extreme. The resolutions remain the same between the regular and the Max model, but Apple's again gone back and redone them down to the materials level. I love HDR deeply, truly, so I'm really looking forward to testing these new displays out, especially with the new spatial audio features that uses Apple's flavored version of Dolby Atmos to really play sound around you. Just cue up my movies already. Speaking of chipsets, these new iPhone Pros feature the new Apple A13 Bionic. Basically, with A13, Apple has pushed machine learning throughout the architecture, not just the neural engine, but the CPU and GPU as well. Apple calls it the fastest chipset ever in a smartphone, which honestly means the fastest chipset since the A12. Qualcomm is doing way better work lately, but seriously, Intel should be quaking in their fabs with what Apple is doing here. The efficiency, performance, graphics, and neural cores aren't just 20% faster each. They use 40, 25, 30, and 15% less power respectively. There are also 2 new machine learning accelerators for matrix math that, frankly, I want in my Pro Max stat. But the real kicker is it does all of this while also providing up to 4 hours more battery life for the regular-sized iPhone 11 Pro and up to 5 hours more for the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So if you had an iPhone XS or an iPhone XS Max, whatever you got with those, these will give you 4 and 5 hours more respectively for the same workload. You can also fast charge the phones up to 50% in 30 minutes with the new 18-watt USB-C adapter. There's also a new U1 chip separate from the SoC that uses ultra-wideband technology for ultra-precise positioning. Apple's only saying it'll let you do things like point your iPhone at somebody else's iPhone in a group to have AirDrop prioritize that person, for example. But it's not hard to imagine it'll be key to a bunch of location and finding technologies and products eventually. I still love that Apple ships feature sets, not chipsets. They don't just slap an extra ultra-wide angle camera on the back of the phone, forget about things like color matching and sensor quality, and just call it a day, for the lulz. No, they added a new effective 16mm, I think, ultra-wide camera to the existing effective 26mm wide angle and effective 52mm telephoto, but they made them part of a unified system. For example, they're all color calibrated to match at the factory, and they all update each other in real time so you can switch between them quickly and consistently with the same color and quality.
It's basically going from zoom out to standard to zoom in at the touch of a button or spin of the dial, and the interface will even hint at the wider angles to remind you that they're there, ready and waiting when and if you need them. And if you happen to take a picture and accidentally crop out something important, like one of your kids, it'll use that extra wide angle data to just fill that in for you and correct it. There's also a new quick video mode. So basically, if you're taking a photo, you just hold down to switch to video, and then you can drag right if you want to lock it into video mode, or if what you really want to do is burst photos, just drag left. Apple even made a point of pointing out their camera app ecosystem, which they say is unparalleled in the industry. And the example they used was a Filmic beta where they were shooting 4 video streams at once, all 3 back cameras on the Pro, plus the front camera, which just brain melting. You can also do portrait mode off both the telephoto and the wide angle now. So basically 10S and 10R style, though with new lens models. There's a new night mode, which is automatic when light falls below a certain level. It's also not a complete after effect like some other phones. It takes a few seconds to prime, then you get a real-time preview. Then when you shoot the picture, it takes about as long to render out as portrait mode used to back on the iPhone 7 Plus. The sample photos look great though, with really accurate colors and good dynamic range and great detail. And unlike some other phones, they didn't try to look like fake daylight. They looked like night, just lit up. But sample photos, so I can't wait to try it out for myself and see how it holds up. There's also a deep fusion mode coming later this year that Apple demoed on stage, again, like they originally did with portrait mode on the iPhone 7 Plus. It takes 9 shots, including 8 in advance and 1 long exposure when you hit the shutter, and then uses machine learning to pixel by pixel plow through the image and make it as impressive as computationally possible. Again, we only got to see demo pictures in the hands-on, but the texture and detail were ridiculous. The video camera can now shoot with interleaved extended dynamic range even at 4K 60 frames per second, which is silly great. And on the front, you get all the same new Face ID and selfie slow feed goodness I spoke about in the iPhone 11 video. Now, all that said, unless you're a geek who gets every new phone every time because a new phone, or you're on an annual update program, or you just fall in love with this new camera system and simply have to have it, even asking if you should upgrade from an iPhone XS to an iPhone 11 Pro is the kind of question, honestly, only tech reviewers ever really ask. Apple is making both iOS and iPhones to deliberately last longer than ever before. The more pertinent question then becomes, if you have an iPhone 6S or an iPhone 7, should you upgrade? And I'd say, especially if you went for the Plus model of either and you need to start looking to replace it, the iPhone 11 non-Pro may be perfect for you. It starts at $700 now. But if you want this display and battery life, and most importantly, this camera, then you may want to consider spending your next few years with the iPhone 11 Pro or Pro Max in this gorgeous new metallic green, space gray, silver, or new gold. $1,000 for the regular version, $1,100 for the Max, much more to come.
And if you want to make the bits that power these atoms, check out Brilliant. Brilliant is a problem-solving website that uses a hands-on approach with storytelling, code writing, interactive challenges, and so much more. There are over 50 interactive courses for you to dive into, including a brand new probability course that covers everything from the basics to real-world applications to fun things like casino games. They're all built for ambitious and curious people who want to better understand the world and maybe help shape it. To support Vector and get unlimited access to Brilliant's courses and daily challenges, just head on over to brilliant.org/vector and get 20% off their annual premium subscription. Thanks, Brilliant, and thanks to all of you for supporting Vector. So, you've heard what I think. Now hit like if you did, subscribe if you haven't already, triple camera fuse that bell gizmo so you don't miss any more videos. And then hit up the comments and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you next video.